Hi there, welcome to this Wednesday morning live. I'm Emma Rowena, I'm a musician, performer, I'm an intuitive guide, reader and healer. And I have this series here going on that happened on the spur of the moment as an impulse, which turns out to be a little bit more than an impulse. It turns out to be actually a testimony of the way I perceive our world and the way I perceive our place in this world. And this I base on, yes, my own history, my own experience, but also on my work with other people and just by observing and seeing what we're doing, and also by tapping into my essence, my core, which I find has a lot of interesting information that when I just keep it spinning up here, it doesn't quite come to the surface. But when you tap in to who you are, that's when the interesting stuff comes. I hope you're well. I've got my tea here. I've started having tea in the mornings now because that's what I wanted to do. I'm enjoying it. So you bring your coffee if you like. We're just going to chat. We're going to do a little bit of an exercise, share a little bit of some tips and tools you can use to start exploring this topic that we're on this week, which is healing the victim. Now, last week was grief, and I was myself in a state of grief, and I still am, but it was quite fresh last week. And related to grief, related to loss, we often find ourselves in a state of victim. Now, I'm going to say something very important. I actually read, because yesterday was the International Mental Health Day, and I read a post by a Norwegian artist, Maria Mena, who said, nothing is so dark that it cannot just take being looked at. I mean, it's not too dark to stand your gaze, so that nothing is too dark for you to look at it in you. I didn't really rephrase that very well, but that I hope you get the essence. Seriously, nothing in us. I know a lot of people have been through trauma, but yes, going back and repeating the trauma, that is maybe something you don't want to do. It's very painful. But looking at your emotions and looking at your patterns or reactions or pain, that does take looking at. I mean, you can look at it. It's actually avoiding it is a lot more strenuous and painful. Trying to avoid it causes a lot of stress and a lot of pain in the body, in your system, in yourself, in your behavior, in your relationships, in your work, in your life, in your future. If you manage to actually try to convince yourself that it's not dangerous to look at your own emotions because they're an expression of you. I'm sorry for my language this morning. They're an expression of you, and you will always be there. And you are an invaluable human being for yourself. You're the only one you're going to have all your life, no matter what. And when you have emotions, when you express your reactions or your thoughts, they're uniquely yours. And there's nothing shameful. That was the other thing I was going to add. There's nothing shameful about having darkness in you. There's nothing shameful about your emotions. There's nothing shameful about grieving longer than people think, as I think you should, as I mentioned last week, or grieving less than people think you should. There's nothing shameful in that. Shame is a construction. It's something that we've learnt, added to our experience. We don't need it. There's nothing, simply because we are. It's an emotion, that's it. It's a reaction, that's it. That's all it is. We don't need to add the shame and the guilt. Everybody has emotions. Everybody has dark spots. Everybody has an experience of being a victim of circumstances, of other people, of governments, of systems, of themselves, their own thoughts, our own emotions, our own patterns, of our stories. We're all victim at some point. And so there's no shame in that. There's no need to feel shameful about being stuck in this frame of mind either. And there's no need to feel shameful. There is no shame in wanting to release it either. It's up to you. It just is. And if you choose to make that shift, to do that work, to heal that victim, to heal the grief that we talked about last week, to heal whatever it is in you, then that's your choice. If you're not ready to, that's your choice as well. And there's nobody can tell you that it's wrong or right. I'm just inviting you, if you're here, maybe you're curious as to how you can heal and maybe feel better in yourself. Maybe you're just curious about what does this woman think she's going to talk about, or why does she have any answers? Or maybe you've started your journey, or maybe you're not interested and then you switch off. I just saw somebody leave, which is fine. Now I'm stumbling a bit today, so I'm a victim a bit of my own confusion, I suppose. And I think the confusion comes from the fact that I find this topic very, very big, much bigger than I really realized when I started. It's easy to do a very sort of quick surface thing. And then when you really want to dig deeper, it can be very big because there are so many different ways of experiencing being a victim. And there are so many layers, there can be so many layers too. It doesn't mean that it is impossible to heal from at all. We can heal from anything. It doesn't mean that we can, it needs to be hard to heal or shift from. I think all this movement that we can do, all these shifts we can do in our lives, I feel that it has to come from a choice. And when you make that choice, you will find the way. Now, if you want to feel empowered in your life, if you want to rise, not in anger and protest maybe. Yes, that's important too. You want to protest something that's wrong, but in yourself, how can you rise and heal from being a victim? Whether it's from something done to you, or a system you're in, or your surroundings, or whether it's something in yourself. I find, again, and I keep coming back to it, I find the more you connect to yourself, the more you get to know yourself, the more you manage to acknowledge that you are. Start with that, you are. And then you are unique. And then you are worthy. These are all extremely powerful statements that you might try and practice. What's her name? Marissa Peer, she has built her own whole career on this one phrase, I am worthy. And she urges people in depression or struggling with their mental health to repeat that to themselves every day, to put it on their phone, put it on the mirror, put it on the wall, just remind themselves all the time, I am worthy. When you start doing that, you start rising, and you start healing, and you start choosing empowerment. But you don't choose it in the beginning, because in the beginning you might not believe that you can choose it, or you might not believe that you are worthy of rising, that you have anything to offer, or you might not even believe that you can heal from being a victim. Or maybe that's all you know. Maybe all you know is feeling small, that somebody else knows better, that somebody has to decide over you, that somebody has the right to treat you in certain ways. Maybe you don't realize all the oppressive, if you like, thoughts and patterns that you bring upon yourself. So maybe you can't make that choice, and which is why I find this exercise extremely interesting, and it sort of goes in line with a lot of the work I do. When you shift your focus, you choose a sentence, you choose a phrase, you choose a focus, then you replace it. You start replacing the old, and you don't have to even work to shift. You choose a different perspective. and then maybe you forget it and you come back to the old. But every time you choose that perspective, you start shifting that sense of oppression or being a victim or whatever pain it is that you're suffering. We can be victims of our own pain, yes. We can be victims of holding on to our pain because it's familiar to us. We can be victims of choosing situations that seem familiar to us because we've been victims of maybe a childhood or stories that have shown us that that's the truth. So when you start receiving information from society, from friends, from somebody, from people around you, at some point you will start to maybe absorb and listen and understand that maybe isn't the truth actually, that there might be a different truth. And that's why maybe you log on to watching videos like this, or to my meditations on Friday, or to other people who have powerful, beautiful teachings out there. There's so many fantastic coaches out there who share freely from their thoughts, and all these things will start to seep in so that you can start to choose to look differently, from a different angle at your reality, and choose a different thought, a different mantra, if you like. So that's one thing that we can do, is to be a little bit, but first you have to, as I mentioned on Monday, you have to become aware of where you are the victim. Where are your thoughts making you the victim? And I'm doing this intentionally. I'm saying your thoughts are making you the victim because, and you're going to have to try and swallow what I'm going to say now. You're going to have to not swallow, you're going to have to try it and absorb it and taste it and see if you can actually accept it. You are. Which is also one of the reasons I think you are an essence. You have an essence which is pure. It is not a victim. You have an essence that is life. It's creation, which is also why I think that we can heal from everything that we choose to heal from. I'm not going to get into the physical body bit because that's a very, very sort of potent and complicated topic, but I also believe that when you start healing your feelings, your emotions, your patterns, then your body starts helping you in a different way, and starts to heal and receive treatment in a different way as well. So but I won't get into that. I'm talking about healing your essence, or healing your experience as a human. That's the topic I want to share with you in this series, this healing series. And this is the first week, which happened to start with the victim mentality. Again, a bit sort of messy in my language today. Apologies. That's just how I am today. And you can listen or not. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, because we are simply here, souls in a body. Oh, we have an essence, we have a heart, and I find that this essence in all of us is connected to the unconditional love of creation. We are creation, we are life. So we don't need to be victims. We don't need to be victims of our own traumas, of other people's oppression. But we need to find a way to rise. And especially if we're sort of so oppressed physically in our world that we can't sort of break through easily, then rising in yourself is a starting point. Nelson Mandela did that when he was 20 years in prison. He rose to a different perspective and started to rule from a peaceful point of view, not a protest and aggression point of view. You can rise in yourself even when you're restricted, because you are in here. You're free. But a couple of things that would help, I think, and that I find when I work with my clients and with myself, is to find your foundation and also to sense your boundaries, and then to listen. Listen to the message in here. Who are you? Go in. On Monday we went, did a little bit of an exercise of sort of tuning in and trying to feel, what does it feel like to be you? What does it feel like in here? Who are you? And when you go there, we'll do that now. Go there and bring your attention, your awareness, into the center of, microphone, into the center of the heart, of this heart center. What does it feel like to be you? What is this? Imagine that there is a ball or a center or an energy or a color or a light in there, and see if you can sort of explore it and feel it. Maybe move about a bit, or just use your thoughts. And what do I feel like? And you don't have to explain. You don't have to understand. You just recognize, because you'll have this feeling all your life. If you feel pain in there, that can sometimes put a layer on the feeling of who are you. So maybe that's what you want to feel. Okay, I'm feeling pain today. Okay, that's an expression of me today. So, and then you can explore that pain, and if you need help to go in and explore it and release it, then find the help, please do. And then from here, whether you feel the pain or whether you feel yourself or whether you feel whatever it is you're feeling, imagine that you can pull sort of a string or strings or a cord all the way down to your hip area, to the base of your spine, to your pelvis. And then imagine, if you're sitting, just feel what you're sitting on. What does it feel like? If you're lying down, what does it feel like, the surface that you're lying on? If you're standing, what does the ground feel like? That brings you all the way down to your feet. Now we can do that even when we're sitting. Imagine that you can bring this cord or these strings that you brought down from your heart center down to this hip area. Imagine you can bring them all the way through your legs, all the way down through your feet and into the ground. Now I'm sitting cross-legged, so it would be a little bit it's not illogical to feel that I can bring my energy through my feet into the ground, but play with it anyway, even if you're sitting like that, or you can bring your feet down. Pretend that you can feel that you're actually bringing this sensation, this cord, these strings all the way down through your feet into the ground. And imagine that this sensation, these strings, they're rooting themselves into the ground, but they're also spreading that feeling of you, spreading that around your feet, around where you're sitting, creating this base that is yours. Just go with it. Use your imagination, because it helps you to align, to anchor yourself in the ground, in your own foundation that you stand on, in your reality. And standing on the ground that feels like yours, so that you can rise. When you're rooted, when you're grounded, you can rise. And when you're connected here, you can start to blossom as you rise. And then one more thing that you can do is if you take your hands and you sort of move them out, see how far you can go. Where is your boundary, your natural boundary? In the sort of alternative world, we call it the aura. And you can feel this. That's your natural boundary. You might feel some tingling in your hands, or maybe there's a little bit of resistance. You might try and just push and see the difference between doing that and between actually sensing this. Now, if you feel it very, very close, see if you can just invite it to expand a little bit further out. If you can't find it, invite it to come so that you can feel it. Invite it in. Invite your energy in, your boundaries in. If you have your boundaries way out there, you're going to absorb everybody else's pain. You're going to feel responsible for everybody else, and you're going to lose your own power. And this also happens when we become victims. We send our energy, we send the power out to them, or to that system, or to those events, those stories. And we forget that we have to gather our power here so that we can manage to stand firmly even in those traumas or storms or whatever it is, or confinements. So see if you can imagine, even if you have, for some reason, I have an image of somebody related to a person finding themselves a victim, not necessarily an oppressor, but that there's some blame going on and somebody feeling that their partner or somebody doesn't see them. So all the attention, all the power, all the energy, all the aura, everything goes over there to that person. This is one example. You find your own example that you can use to practice. And then imagine that you bring this and let that person be. If that person in your mind's eye tries to follow it, just say, no. This is my energy. I'm bringing it out. Bringing it in, because we do connect to each other. We actually feel each other, whether you believe it or not. You can we'll explore that in a relationship session one as well. Relationship week, not now. But this is actually connected to that. So imagine that you're actually pulling this in together, and you can feel the boundary. You can feel your energy. You can feel your space. And imagine that now that you know that you have this circle around you that is sort of lit up with your feeling, your sense, your essence from here. If you have these two in place, I would invite you to practice them and see if it makes a difference to you. And if you feel invaded, if you find yourself going over there, if you feel yourself overwhelmed by some sort of sensation, you don't know what it is, or if you feel yourself stuck in this traumatic incident, see if you can just take a moment and practice these two things. Come home to your heart. Yes, explore. Look at the pain, not at the trauma. Try to avoid looking at the story. Go in and explore that feeling that you have, the reaction, what this made you feel like. Maybe it made you feel tiny and worthless, and okay, that's what it feels like today. And the moment you start feeling that, you can even act it, enhance it. What does it feel like to be tiny, to be a victim I feel terrible. Okay, enhance it until you start to realize that you don't have to stay there. And don't enhance the incident or the event or whatever it is. Try to go to the feeling, your emotion. Acknowledge this. That's a gift of self-love to yourself. Self-love to yourself. Self-love. And then see if you can manage to allow this sensation, this being of yours, to seep down. Even the pain, when you root yourself in that, then you have a place from which you can rise. And when you start rooting it into the ground, spreading it out into the earth, imagine that the earth can cleanse this sensation so that your essence becomes clean again, pure again. You connect to whoever you are behind those feelings. There's no shame in feelings. There's no shame in, we don't want to negate them. We don't want to ignore them. That's the hard work. When we spend a lot of emotion, energy and emotion and time fighting our emotions, that's exhausting. It's when you start investigating and coming close and getting to know yourself and understanding who you are and appreciating and just exploring with curiosity. That's when the energy comes back. That's when you start healing. So yes, this goes for every situation you're in, of course, but for now, that was, I urge you to look at a situation or a pattern where you find yourself being a victim. And what was that again? It's when you put your power over to somebody else by blame or by fear or by simply, staying with a story or a situation that has brought you into this state of fear and feeling small. So that would be the victim. So the other thing that you can do is what Marissa Peers does, is to put up the word, I am worthy. I am worthy. Or I am, well, I think that's what she uses. I am loved anyway. I am enough. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. That was it. There's something. You can use I am worthy, but I am enough. Can you feel that? That's different. You are enough. You are beautiful. Let's take a little centering before I finish. Breathe in. You are enough. Breathe that in into your body. And as you breathe in, feel how you can bring this all the way down into your hip area as you breathe out. This awareness, I am enough. Breathe in, I am enough. And with your exhale, anchor this down into your hips. And the last one, we're going to anchor it all the way down to the ground. Breathe in. I am enough. You can add I am worthy if you like. And breathe out. Bring it all the way down into your hips and all the way through your legs down to the ground. Anchoring yourself in this awareness. I am enough. And then finally, connect to your heart. Bring your awareness to the heart center. Bring your hands there if you like. And really consider that statement. I am enough. You are. With that, I wish you a beautiful day. Many blessings. Take care.